Economic uncertainty is something every leader has to plan for. But the real question is how you respond when it arrives. Do you focus on getting through it, or do you position your organization to come out stronger? Our upcoming panel, From Surviving to Thriving, the 2026 Recession-Proofing Blueprint, brings this conversation into focus, exploring how businesses can build financial resilience, adapt to shifting markets, and make strategic decisions that drive long-term growth. To shed light on the topic, we have the session's moderator, Richard Curran, CEO and President of Expo Conventions, Contractors, and the panelists. Over to you, experts. Come on up.
All right, so From Surviving to Thriving, the 2026 Recession-Proofing Blueprint. We're here today, recessions don't just destroy companies. What they do is they expose them. And the question isn't if the pressure's coming, it's whether if your business is built to absorb it or break under it. And I have a dynamic group of panelists with me today that are really gonna help us map out this blueprint. So I'm gonna let them do self-introductions, starting with Fredah.
Thank you so much. So my name is Dr. Fredah, and I am the founder and director of Spiral with Fredah and a nonprofit called Rainbow Sanctuary. And in this panel, as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about self-leadership. So that will be my foundation.
All right, I'm Marisa Murgatroyd. I'm the co-founder and lead strategist at the Experience Group. And we support businesses in engineering dynamic customer experiences that skyrocket lifetime value and eliminate churn and create people who rave about what you do.
Yeah, so hello, my name is Siegfried Isele. I'm the guy from the mountains from Switzerland, and I'm running a business here in the US as well as in Switzerland and in Dubai, focusing on legacy system, on maintaining them, on moving them, and bringing them to the foundation of AI needs. Because any AI is only as good as the data which is coming into, and that's why we are polishing and cleaning them up before. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. Well, I guess I have to mention the mountains around Tahoe where I currently live. So
I have seen them last year.
So I'm Dave Adams, CEO and founder of the Business Freedom Group. And as the name implies, we help businesses get from being an anchor around their owner's neck to a source of freedom. And we do that through careful strategic planning, but then hands-on tactical action. It's not just a plan. We make stuff happen for that business to close the gap between where they are and where they've always dreamed to be.
Great, thank you, everybody. So, starting with early warning signs. When you look at today's economy, what are the early warning signs that tell you if a business is vulnerable to a downturn? David, why don't you start with that one?
Sure. If you look up some of the classical things, they will talk about many of the accounting measures, and as an engineer, I really love numbers, but many of those accounting things, cash flow, profitability, things like that, they're really looking in the rearview mirror. So you've got to keep your eye focused on what's coming, and that's through sales KPIs. Are your salespeople talking in numbers, or are they just long-winded, wordy explanations? So really keep your eyes on customer intimacy to know where your company's going to go.
Right. Same question.
So I believe a big lack, which a lot of companies have, is they don't know really their operation model. Because if they know their operating model, it doesn't matter what is the surrounding, because then they can adjust their operating model to the situation. But they need to have a vision where they are currently and where they want to be in the future. And then you can steer it. It's like going with a sailing boat. Yes, I'm from the mountains, but we have also lakes. But if you have a sailing boat and nice weather, everybody can sail. But in wind and storm, it's difficult. But you need to know your things. And this is really often that a lot of companies look only from the next step, to the next quarter of sales or whatever. But they need to be really aligned with their operational model, because this is giving them the governance, and therefore they have the compliance. And now we are on the same page with the KPIs. because KPIs are part of the compliance. And this is what I think is the best. If you know your things, you have your own radar on that.
And do you find that companies are missing these things, or are they more ignoring it?
During the day-by-day business, they are not focusing on that. And as a leader, you should focus on that. The day-by-day business is not your cup of tea. It's not your focus. This is with your people. This is with your team. And you must trust to your team what they are doing on the day-by-day. But the vision is with the owner. And you have to steer that. This is what I meant with sailing into the storm.
Yeah. Same question.
Yeah, so I believe that sales and profitability are lagging indicators. So many businesses are orienting their P&Ls and their quarterly reports and everything else, their strategy, around sales and profitability, but that can have you chase strategies that ultimately destroy long-term profitability and the long-term sustainability of a company. So for me, the leading indicator is oftentimes time to value and customer success. And what are your customers saying about you in the marketplace, and are they continuing to buy from you over and over again? So I took a stand in our company and made customer success our North Star metric about 5 years ago. And we have seen industry contractions with the current market conditions, but most of my peers are seeing far deeper industry contractions. So for me, if you focus on the value to the customer and making sure that your customers win, and you clearly articulated what that value actually is, so how quickly does the customer achieve the outcome, or at least taste the full value of whatever it is that you do? What's the transformation 30 days out, 60 days out, 90 days out and beyond? And if you focus on delivering value and actually following through on the promises that you make in your marketing, your business will survive, because that will lead to more sales and greater profitability later on as you make more from every customer coming in.
Well, you said you focused on customer success metrics. So is that also something that you put in line when you're working with customers, as far as, because you can put your North Star as customer experience, but if you're not measuring it, how do you know?
100%. So, for example, with customer success, there's so many different metrics and it can easily be intangible. So you've got to get clear on your value proposition as a company and what success looks like for clients in order to define a relevant metric, right? Because a metric isn't just how good does your people feel about your company. That's too wishy-washy to run a business on. But what is that core value proposition? How do you deliver that? How quickly can you deliver it? And do people know when they've received it? And if you can measure that, that will tend to create long-term value and long-term profitability.
Right. And Fredah, same question. Any the vulnerability for companies?
The vulnerability that I usually see, because I'm also a small business advisor and coach, is that when they panic, it's like they're hitting the panic button. But in the process of hitting that button, they start communicating and making decisions poorly. And they think that if they go to a team meeting, and they make decisions quickly, so they're focusing on speed, then they think that they're going to be thriving because, we are making decisions. Mm-hmm. But the problem is when you make a decision for speed rather than for stability. Mm. And like Dr. Siegfried was saying, when you make a decision and you're looking only at the short term instead of the long term, then stability is lost right there.
Right.
So because of that, then it becomes a communication issue. Because here we are in the boardroom, we are trying to make a decision, but then as a team, you go to your team and you interpret the decision we made together differently from the way I'm going to do it, from the way she's going to do it, from the way every other team leader is going to do it. And so the decision then gets lost through poor communication, because we are communicating for speed, pushing the sales team, go make us some money, marketing, go get us some customers, And so for me, when I am advising small businesses, I want to see whether their decisions are interpreted the same way. Shared communication, shared values, so that if we say we are here and we stand for this value, we are standing for our customers, then that's the communication that goes throughout the whole organization. no silo effect, no seesaw effect, or else we are just working for speed and thinking, oh, maybe a price increase will help. Yeah. So decisions and the way we communicate together. Yes.
I'm going to jump to you, Marisa. What's one strategic shift companies need to make before a recession hits?
Yeah, 100%. So following on what I was saying earlier, really understanding how do you tighten up basically the timeline to receiving value. So in many different industries, a lot of times, the customer journey might take months, or, the value proposition's a little bit vague. And vague value propositions still work in good markets, but when the competition increases, when people are tightening up their wallets, when they're starting to hesitate, they're asking, is this expense 100% necessary? What am I going to gain from this in the next 90 days? Right? So to stay at the top of the list, you've got to have an incredibly clear value proposition, understand what is the win state, how quickly can you get people to that win state, and how do you engineer the milestones in route so people can see that they're receiving value all the way through. It's not an invisible process that people drop into, and eventually, if they do a lot of work and put in a lot of effort, they're going to get to value. So it's re-engineering the journey to get to value super fast, and to make sure people know that they're winning, and to deliver that win as quickly and powerfully and in as memorable a way as possible, so you no longer become the thing that they get cut, but it's becoming essential versus providing invisible value.
Excellent. Thank you. Dave, I want to jump to you on that one. The strategic shift for companies?
Well, I'd love to build on what Marisa said. I mean, time to value is a great concept. The key thing is not doing that from your perspective, doing it from the customer's perspective. Where are they getting value? How quickly are they getting value? And how much of their own time do they need to invest to get that value? So it's getting the full trade-off.
Is that a mindset or an operational shift that you're?
Well, I'll just play with the words, the vocabulary shift.
Okay.
I think it's actually a mindset shift, because a lot of people are focusing on selling products and services and features.
Right, and then it's more of like, okay, we know we're seeing the signs in the next 90 days. So, like, you got to get everybody on board. You got to get everybody in the same mindset and same.
Well, it's about shifting from what you have to sell to what is the instant intangible gain that the customer is going to get. Selling the win, selling the outcome. Focusing on, especially for legacy brands that have been around time and they're riding on reputation.
Right.
It's
and like Fredah was saying, with the putting that customer, well, to kind of mash up you guys both. Now, when you have that focus and that hurry and that you're putting that energy, but if you keep that customer value at the forefront, then you're going to sell the products. You're going to sell your service.
And I would just add that there's a B2C version of this and a B2B version.
Very true.
Yeah.
And that's where the vocabulary, I think, is very different, because B2B is very, in recession, they're very tactical. You have to make sure that they feel like their tactical path to value is clear.
Absolutely. But we are currently focusing a little bit or too much, from my perspective, to sales. Because what we talk about, what happens in a recession. So we have to, and I'm coming back to the operational model. So it's not always the best to make more sales, because we have a saying in Switzerland, the money you don't need to spend, you don't need to earn. So also you have to look to the other side. And this is what, if you are the strategic leader of the company, you have to focus on improvement, on your processes, on the methodologies, on all that stuff, which is helping your people to do better business, because any better business is reducing your cost. And this is something which also I think is really important, that you know your way of operations and that you can steer in that direction with education to the people, with all those things, because only giving more sales, if you run into a recession, and we have seen that in COVID times, or in the beginning of COVID, nobody was buying B2B, B2C. Everybody, B2B was playing strategic, and B2C, nothing happened, all of us know. If you haven't sold toilet paper or noodles, you were lost. But the thing is, what we, as we steer and lead the company, we should look on both sides. For sure, we have to increase sales, we have to grow the market, we have to look for additional markets where we can leverage our existing and make it better. But in parallel, we have to also look how we can improve our processes and reduce the costs, because that will help us to survive in a recession time, I think.
Yeah, there's the old saying, you don't want to race to the bottom, because while you were going through a recession as a company, our customers are going through that too.
Yeah.
So like you say, if you sell more, but because everyone else is spending less, you start selling cheaper, you're just putting yourself up.
Yeah.
and
Then
setting
you lose
yourself up
money
for
at the
failure.
end.
Yeah.
I think we can thread that needle, though. As a process engineer, I love internal improvements.
Yeah.
But I think when we're talking about customer intimacy and customer time to value, that's not necessarily run up the sales book.
Yeah.
That's understand how you're serving the customer.
Yeah, and that gives you a long-term success with that client.
Right, and it goes back to understanding your operating model,
Yeah.
because your operating model really includes the client.
And it reflects what the client wants to get.
And if there's an ascension model built in for, cross sells and upsells, then focusing on fewer clients that you don't have to have the cost of acquisition for, and serving them more deeply. And
Exactly,
then,
now we're at the point.
Yeah.
And this gives also loyalty that clients are more loyal to. Because what we did also in the past, and what I'm continuously doing, is talking to the C-level people of my clients and asking, what is your strategy for the future? How can we improve our services that they align more with your future strategy? Things like those, because this is giving us more binding, more closeness to the client.
Absolutely.
And then also when a competitor is coming in with a similar service or product, they will not go in so easy, because it's not about the price, it's about the relationship and the trust.
And I want to go back to the value that Marisa was talking about. And when you're thinking about an executive making decisions, like I was saying earlier, and communicating that, if you're not focusing on innovation, because we keep talking about COVID time, and as we are talking about COVID time, if it wasn't the innovation that happened at that time, we wouldn't even be where we are. And then apart from that, even as we are talking about customers, even as we are talking about adding value to our customers, we don't usually pay attention to them. We never even reach out to them to ask them, so this is where we are, where are you? So that it becomes a partnership. Otherwise, our innovation will just go to drain. Our sales team, even if we pep them up however high, if the customers are not included at the table of the decisions we are making, we're just going to be seeing decisions drift, poor communication, and then a poor understanding of our customers, and therefore a poor proposition of our values. And so what I have found when I'm advising, small businesses, they are more, they lean in more because they have no experience, they don't know what they're doing, unlike the legacy, build businesses that think, we know what we are doing, we know our customers. And what I like about, solopreneurs and new business owners is that they will go to the customer and ask the customer, and they will map out the customer's journey on where are they? Are they ready to buy, or are they just seeking for information? But when you don't pay attention to your customers, all the boardroom talk will go back to exactly what I had said earlier, decision drift and no clarity in the communication. And so if we don't watch out for that, then we cannot recession-proof, because we saw how many companies died and were buried during COVID because they didn't do those very things we are talking about here today.
Well, what you said in terms of, with legacy brands that have been around for a while, not continuing to ask the customers and just trying to sell the same thing in different market conditions is the kiss of death, because in recession is when new players really rise strong, because they can be more agile, they can be more responsive to the customers, they can kind of pivot, whether it's their pricing model or their business model or the offers to meet new demands that might arise within this type of market condition. So there's massive opportunity in recessions, but you have to also kind of watch that someone doesn't come and steal your lunch. Right?
So we've been talking about the things to do, and now I want to shift into what not to do scenario. So as we see the recession coming, what is something that a CEO should not cut money on? Like, when that revenue tightens, where should they not cut? So let's start with you, Siggy.
So the most important for me is really, and as you said, we have to reach out to the clients. We still, also in the recession, we have to continuously communicate with the clients, because otherwise they get felt lost, or we open the gate for competitors. Right. So that's why we really need to align. And that's why, my salespeople have asked me already here, especially in the US and Europe, it's a little bit different than in the US, also with this recession discussion currently. But they asked me, hey boss, what do we do? And I said, we continue, we really push. But this is also something, when you own the company, when you own the business, it's your money which is in the company. So you deal with your own money. That's why yesterday I said, we are in Las Vegas, but we are not gambling. We have calculated risk, and we have to calculate the risk. Yeah. We know we have to have the numbers in mind and be clear, okay, I do this and I invest that, and if it's not working, I lose this money. If it's working, I win that money. I have to have these numbers in mind, always. If you wake me up in the morning at 2 or whatever, click, it's there. But this is the thing, that we are really clearly not stopping, and I've seen it at a lot of companies, they stop in investing into the future. And this is something, because when you think only for quarters, then we get into that trap. Mm-hmm. We have to really think, okay, it's going down this year perhaps, but next year it's going up. But if we don't invest in the downturn times now, we will never go up in the next. And that's why I told my people clearly, we continue on that.
Yeah, they always say you buy at the bottom, so you want to keep investing, right?
But it's the same if you buy shares or go to the stock market. Exactly. Go in when it's low, not when it's high.
David, same question.
So just to maybe summarize my view of what you just said is, you invest where the customer can tell you're investing.
Yep.
You can delay some of the internal stuff. So invest in customer-facing investments and invest in your key talent. Don't get let go of your best people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you lose them, the hiring costs are much higher.
Well, and in addition to the hiring cost, the transition cost.
Yeah, that's the one part of it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Is huge.
So what you were saying, which is customer value delivery, a lot of times becomes overhead. You know, people get the money, you know, they do the marketing and the sales, they get the money, they have to pay off the marketing and the sales, and then they're like, oh, now I have to deliver to the client, and it's easy to contract there or to try to automate or whatever else it happens to be, but then lose the essence of why someone bought to begin with. So I think that you never want to, you know, cut value delivery, or at least the brand-defining moments. And sometimes brand-defining moments are the things that people really love, are not always the most expensive things to deliver. They might be higher touch, they might involve, you know, some extra level of finesse, but understanding what are the things that people love about your company, and how do you continue to deliver those regardless of the cost. And you can kind of automate and make it. We're vibe coding all of our software now, and so we're cutting thousands and thousands of dollars of overhead, but we're not cutting client delivery. Right?
Yeah, thank you. So, like I said, my foundation of this panel is self-leadership. And so the first thing I want not to be cut is the leader development budget, not the training budget, which is usually the first one that is targeted. But there's one budget that is usually neglected, and that is the leader development budget. So I don't want that cut, because if a leader is going to be the one who the buck stops with when it comes to recession-proofing so that they can thrive, then we want them supported to know themselves, understand their strengths, so that they can share that very strongly. And I don't want the leader neglected, because I don't want the leader coming out, oh, I'm the hero, I want to save the recession day and, you know, prove to everybody else I'm a good leader. No. Because once you compromise your values, which you have not aligned with the mission of the organization, then when now recession, you know, books come from the accountants and they say, here, we are in trouble, you're going to panic. You're going to panic. And when you hit that panic button, it spreads across, you know, the organization. And therefore, all the nice things that the innovation team and design team and, you know, customer and shareholder team were doing will all come tumbling down.
What's one of the biggest mistakes that you've seen in that moment?
So at that moment, the leader, because of the culture that we are socialized in, it's a triad. And employees do whatever they have to do. But when things go right, all the credit goes to the leader. Therefore, in a recession time, if it goes to the leader, you have seen, like even during COVID time, how many leaders actually either exited their positions, or they were retired forcefully, or they simply resigned. But that's what I don't want happening. That's why I don't want the budget for leader development cut, because we want to support the leader to be resilient. We want them to be strong and courageous to face this problem that we are facing, but not to do it with a silo and seesaw effect, but to collaborate with everyone. Because when the buck stops, it's not just going to stop with the leader at that time in recession time, it's going to be the leadership team. But in most cases, we never focus on the leadership team because we live in a custom or narrative where we think that the CEO should be the hero. And so when things don't go right, who do we blame?
Right.
So that's why I'm in the corner for the leader.
Marisa, same question. Working with customers in the past, where have you seen like a mistake in cutting or spending?
Yeah, so, I think that one of the biggest mistakes that people make is kind of resting on past laurels. We're in a market where the market innovation cycle has just shrunk down to days, and one of my friends believes that there will probably be a one-person billion-dollar company by the end of this year, right? In terms of being able to instantly code an empire. But also the longevity of these companies potentially is getting a lot smaller too, because proprietary tech, no such thing anymore. Am I right? All sorts of proprietary formulas, where AI can now crack the human genome in a way that has never been able to be done by the greatest scientific minds in the world.
Just recently, the whole back end of Claude Code was released, though.
Right.
So I think that this is a market where you can't take anything for granted.
Yep.
And so the ability to constantly revisit the fundamentals, which is what is the value that we provide? How do we articulate it? How does the client experience it? Who do we actually serve? What is the segment of the market where we can go deep and provide extraordinary level of value versus trying to go wide and provide superficial value to a lot of different people? So I do think that it's also a market where specialization and going deeper really matters as well.
Same question. What's some of the mistakes that you've seen working with companies in spending?
Expanding is important, but I want to look first to my existing employees, because the most important knowledge and the source is my people. I would not be there where I am currently without my people and my team. And that's why also when we are expanding, to involve them, not everybody for sure, but team leaders and so on, and ask them, talk to them, be open in the communication, in the up and in the down. So when there is a downturn, be also clear, hey, there will be no salary increase currently, but you have a good salary, you have a good job, you have a safe job, give safety. And I'm facing that really often currently in the US versus in Europe, because here is more higher on fire mentality with the up and the down. Instead of in Europe, it's different. But what I face here currently, when we give a clear commitment to our people in the US, you have a safe job. Don't worry about your job. You don't get kicked out in 30 days or whatever. That is really bringing innovation, because then they say, okay, if I have a safe job, I can think a little bit, and then we can use this energy for growing, for opening additional markets, additional ideas. So we do this once a month, that we have this gathering. It's free for everybody who can join in the company, and it's in the working time.
Yeah.
But that they can bring in their ideas, and out of that we start to grow and to expand.
You're leaning in on the culture.
Yeah, I try to bring a little bit the European culture into that, and it's difficult once in a while, because also we have some people who think, hey, I'm the rocket star. And I say, okay, look for another company, because I don't need, Europe, we are more in soccer than in football.
Right.
And, but we don't need 11 Ronaldos.
Right.
We need a team. And this is the same here. We need a good team set up, but also they need to rely on that what I'm telling them is the truth. And this is helping us to grow, to expand, and also sometimes getting an input and say, no, but we don't go for because it doesn't work into my strategy. But really give the open forum to the people. I'm fighting on that currently because there are different mentalities currently on the continents. But this is something which I try. I don't know. Perhaps next year we can talk about if it has worked out. But this is a kind of a strategy to involve the people and help. They help me in the vice versa to grow and to expand.
Dave, what about you? What are some of the mistakes that you've seen?
Well, certainly being too internally focused versus externally. And, you know, I've worked in places and seen places that did have kind of the hire and fire thing, but I would say that's more larger companies. You know, I've switched to serving medium and smaller size companies, and there's a lot of loyalty there, and they really operate like a family. But many times, because that founder is so well versed in the functions of the business, they forget to do the communication function. And they forget to express out loud the loyalty, the safety they have for their own community, you know, for their own company, family. So, yeah, being too internal or not communicating well enough.
Oh, excellent. So I want to stay with you, Dave, and go into the last question. If a CEO in this room wanted to recession-proof their business in the next 90 days, what are the top 2 to 3 actions that they should take immediately?
Well,
Excuse me.
on the internal side, look after your cash flow. You know, and the research is very clear. Why do most companies fail? If they fail, it's because they expanded too fast. So, and that's where you get into cash flow trouble.
Fiscal responsibility.
And then the other thing that's been the theme we've all been talking about is pay attention to the customer experience. Whether that's a soft measure, time to value, if you can get to a hard measure, whatever it is. So cash and customers, those are the 2 things to invest your time in.
Same question. Next 90 days, what do they focus on?
Absolutely. So we spoke earlier about KPIs, operating model, governance. So this is the foundation. And everybody should look into, do I have it already? Because then we're clear on the expansion. Can we go for an expansion? Because if we have not made the homework, how can we go further? This is not working, then it will be collapsing. And that's why for the first 90 days, I would say, first 30 days, look into the truth. Do you have the real truth on your table? If not, take the next 30 days to improve it, that you have it after 90 days. And then you're well settled for. And then we're at the same point, like you said, I like numbers. Then we can talk about the KPIs. Then we know about the cash. You have to pay the salaries, for example. You have to have enough money on the bank to pay the salaries. If your employees don't get the salary in time, they are getting pissed. And they are right.
Yes.
So that's why do your homework first, but not in 90 days. Right. Take it in 30 days.
Well, I think that in times of recession, and we don't know how long this is going to go on exactly, it's kind of looking at where the puck is going is the famous expression. And the nature of value changes in a time of recession, and what's actually essential to customers changes as well. So part of that is the deep listening, but being willing to pivot a model to align with what's going to be needed, not now, but what's going to be needed 6 months from now, what's going to be needed 1 year from now, and looking at potentially redefining what your business is all about or who it is that you serve, so you can continue to be essential to somebody specific. And I think a lot of businesses, if they provide something that's a non-essential, or they have not clearly articulated that value proposition, or they're not looking forward enough, are just quickly being eclipsed by the technology advancements. So part of that exploration is also, one thing I'm looking at is how can I close the gap more and more and more for the people that I serve? Like, how can I get them closer and closer and closer to exactly what they came to me for, removing as many hurdles as possible? So the experience they have of working with us is that we quickly delivered everything that they needed and wanted. And we removed all the unnecessary bells and whistles and made it as enjoyable as possible. And then, they also talk, they also refer. So part of that's leveraging the technology as it comes about to actually provide more value in the moment, to kind of stay ahead.
Right, and you're gonna receive organic growth, because if you become that partner to your customer and you're assisting them in the same process that you are, they're gonna recommend you, like you said.
And a lot of it's also compassion to, the customers. The buying decisions really change in times of market contraction. Whether you're working B2C or you're working B2B, or we had someone stop at our booth who was B2G, business to government. So the buying decisions for every one of those markets is changing, and having compassion for what it means to make this kind of investment in this market and to take that really seriously.
Fredah, the same question, the next 90 days, what are two or three actions that they should take?
Well, for me, number one is have at least incorporate an AI strategy, and then tighten the governance, not just of AI, but of their own organizations. And whether it is government or corporate or small businesses, that is going to be critical. And then my third one about what I am passionate about is ensuring that communication does not drift. What we talked about in the team meeting, whether it came all the way from the boardroom, no drift, shared, clear communication. So those are the three things in my head right now.
And I asked a lot of questions today that seemed really, black and white, one answer, but the purpose is, everybody views things a little differently, but there is no one answer that we're answering on. All of these things blended together are really what are gonna help a CEO push through a recession. So, not that there's a right or wrong answer, but it's all encompassing, so.
And you are a CEO who's in a rapidly growing business too, and I'd love to hear, your thoughts as well.
Yeah. I mean, and not only rapidly growing, but rapidly impacted. I'm in the live events business, and we build trade shows and events. So we all know that around March of 2020, that stopped, dead stop. No moving forward, no live events, no mass gatherings, and mass gatherings are exactly what we do. So it was the ultimate pressure of trying to keep a company afloat. Not nosediving 90% of your business, barely skimming along, being very creative how to find and generate funds. So, but yeah, as we survived it, it then shifted into this almost making us that much stronger going into where we had a market explosion. And because we saw the proof that live events matter, people face-to-face interactions matter. So being in that position that we were resilient enough to survive it, which a lot of my competition didn't, it really put us in the position to kick back into gear fast. So a lot of it had to do with the culture, the culture that we built as a smaller company, keeping it in alignment, keeping the people with the same vision, with the same belief, supporting me in the things that I wanted to do, and understanding where we were in the marketplace, but understanding where we could go, and having buy-in behind that, and almost having ownership in everything we do has been probably the most success building to get into the scaling moment that we've been.
I also wanted to ask you a question about the next 90 days.
Yeah, well, the next 90 days for us, even though we see a recession looming, one of the things that AI has done for live events, it actually reinforced I would say, the demand to actually be in a room and listen to people say the things of what they're saying. Because as we've all seen crazy deep fakes on the internet, now you almost have to question every single YouTube video that you see. So when you click on a video, you have to was this real? Was this? So you're questioning all the content you're consuming. But if you come to a live event and you sit in a room and you hear the subject matter experts speak about it, It's true. You know, I mean, you know it's real.
Yeah.
So for us, it's actually the AI deepfake. It's kind of been more of a blessing then. So we're still seeing, like, we're not seeing the impact as much on the live event side because you have people that need this content. You have continuing education that's part of events, and that's what continues to drive, the actual trade show component. So people are still going to live events. Thank you. And so one of the pain points is actually growth and scaling because as we continue to gain more market share now, how do I scale culture? The old saying, what got you here won't get you there, very famous book. I constantly keep that top of mind because even though that was our timer. So I constantly keep that top of mind because one of the things about growing, well, even from 2021 to today, we're 1,000% growth. We're 10x, and we're continuing, not maybe at that drastic of a pace, but we continue to hockey stick up. I have to have the people, I have to have the resource, because even though we have a lot of stuff that we put out there, it's a people business, it's a service business.
Right.
And that's all about, like you talk about, your people are your biggest asset. So, so for me, it's hiring, but hiring with the focus on cultural alignment. Is this person going to be a good fit? Sure, we want skills, but there's a lot of things that we could teach, and we can't teach that culture fit.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Well, my alarm says that we are out of time, but thank you all. Appreciate it, and thank you to my panel.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
All right.